Okay, let's discuss what we sometimes refer to as GCManage, or more generically as the online care portal. You may refer to it as My GrandCare because of the my.grandcare.com address that many people in the United States are using to access the care portal. Of course, there are some people who will be accessing a different address because that would be a different GrandCare server, such as people using GrandCare in countries other than the United States would almost certainly all have their own server just for that country. And by the way, the reason is for that is because most countries have laws and regulations concerning health data that it may not be managed outside of their own countries. The United States has a similar rule as well. So let's get started. I'm going to log in. And now here's the view that I have. I'm an administrator on this server, but even if you don't have that exact role, you may have a similar view. And I'll put up a screenshot here to show you what you would see if you're just a family caregiver or another individual who only has access to one single GrandCare account. You can see that it's just the account summary page for that account that you would have access to. This would be the screen that you would see when you log in. But since I am not just a caregiver for a single GrandCare system, I have a different view. So let's talk about what's on display here. Up here at the top, you can see my last 6 viewed accounts. This is just a matter of convenience. As you do your GrandCare work, the 6 accounts that appear up here will change. You can see that if I go and look at Michelle's desk system and I go back to the home page for myself, you can see it jumps to the top left here to show that it's the last viewed account. So these are just here for convenience, a convenient shortcut, because if you need to look at an account right now, chances are you've probably looked at it recently. So that's just there for you as a convenience. There are also these data-driven charts that are clickable. I can click through and just see all the active accounts just by clicking through on that. We'll talk about that in a minute. And here's all the systems that I have by status, whether they're up, down, off, in inventory, or other statuses that they might have. And we'll talk about that as well. And on the left-hand side, you can see I have some primary navigation for GCManage. And of course, this home button just takes me here. And we've already talked about the My Profile button. That just takes me to my own user account that we've talked about before, and we'll get more into that in just a bit. I can see a list of alerts in chronological order here, some emails and text messages that have gone out on various accounts on this server. We're going to talk about managing accounts and managing users and groups as well in separate videos. So here, if I go to, let's say, accounts, I get a standard GrandCare list view. So I've got a search function that if I'm looking for a certain account, I can enter part of its name here and find it. I could just go through the list of accounts that I have access to. And there's almost always a filter that you can use to, maybe I just want to see all accounts, or maybe just disabled accounts, or so on and so forth. So be aware that there's almost always a filter in these list views as a convenience for you. And you can see the same thing applies to if I go to users. I get a sort, and I get a filter, and I get a search function. So it's a pretty standard list view in GrandCare. And you can see if I click through on any of these graphs, I get to the standard list view of whatever that section of the pie chart was showing me. And now, to wrap up our introduction to GCManage and its basic functions, we should talk about statuses. So every GrandCare account has a status at any given time, and they are these. The green status is up, and you can see that reflected in these charts as well. Up, off, down, etc. So let's talk about what those are. So an up status means that this GrandCare is online and communicating with GrandCare servers and everything is good. That's the status that you definitely want to see. And then there's the status of off, as you can see here with this account. And by the way, if you click through to the account, you can see the status is reflected here on the summary page as well. So what does it mean to be off? Well, the status of off means that someone has powered down this GrandCare unit by either pushing the power button or by navigating the software settings and powering the machine down. It means somebody has deliberately turned it off, and that's usually okay and not a sign of trouble unless it's supposed to be on, of course. But what does it mean to be down? And you can see the down status is here in red. Down usually means there's some kind of problem. Often it means that the internet connection at that location has failed for some reason. But it could just mean that somebody walked by and kicked the GrandCare's plug out of the wall and it hasn't been turned off properly. It's just no longer reporting in, but it didn't send a message that it was powering itself down. So it's unexpectedly offline, and that's what the status of down means. Now there are some other statuses here that we'll talk about in a little bit more detail later, like pre-install and inventory and disabled, but we'll get to those when we talk about subjects like reprovisioning systems and managing accounts and systems and so on. So those are the basic statuses: up, off, and down.